Way too often we take our individual tragedies and transform them into gross generalizations. This is bullshit. I've been hurt by someone who had a skin color different than mine. Am I supposed to be wary of all people with that skin color? No. When somehow something else happened, perpetrated by someone with the same color as the person who originally hurt me, people treated me like an idiot for not realizing that all people who look like that are dangerous. This is ludicrous. On the other hand, if I speak any of this out loud, I'm a racist. And we teach this in some form or another to our children all of the time. We have a globally sanctioned foundation for every ism, for every group hatred we've ever been able to come up with. It works really well, too. As long as we have an us and a them, we can live a paradigm that makes hatred, blame, shame, sexual assault, and rape inevitable. This is called global rape culture, and it serves us because as long as we have an us and an other, then we are not like them, and then we can pretend that what they did or what happened to them will never, ever happen to us. And if it does, we can be utterly and completely surprised. But what if the entire construct is faulty thinking? What if the beliefs we form after trauma are simply that? Trauma beliefs that appear necessary at the time in order to survive, but that certainly do not deserve the sanction of becoming the foundation on which to base our lives. It is difficult and it is entirely possible to choose a life that does not enact belief, conviction, and action out of individual pain and trauma. It is not a given that we are to live in hate. In fact, if there is any given here, it is that we are supposed to live choosing a life that is foundationed in love. We try so hard to be an us and a them, inside and outside, we and other, good guys and bad guys, angels and devils, slut and unslut, yes, no, living, dead, shamed, shameless. This paradigm is old, done, over. Because within this construct, there is no possibility for real recovery. We are mortal and we are conscious. We get to live and walk around in a body, and we know we're going to die. To hold both truths simultaneously, to live the futility of committedly adoring the impermanent, means choosing to live in the real discomfort and ambiguity that comes with being a human. How are we to live if we don't have the balls to feel every bit of what's involved in the process? Is it really possible that we are simply too selfish a species to choose to feel our own real pain? Is it really possible that we are simply too selfish a species to choose to bear witness to the pain of others? I don't think so. I think it is totally possible we are able to choose to share our grief and out of this grow another kind of joy. A joy that sits in the bosom of reality, often painful, sometimes not. The problem is that these truths are often apparently contradictory and simultaneously true. When we speak them, they give rise to creativity, to connection, to angst, to love, to pathos, to sexuality, and to the power that comes with all of these. When we dwell in our truths, we are not controllable. People can choose not to sexually assault, and we can choose not to perpetuate what is now a global rape culture. The reality is, there is no us. And there is no them. Them is us is them, and when something horrible happens to one of us, something horrible has happened to all of us. We are all that we have. This is what we get, and we can choose how we want to be, even if it's hard. At the peak of the race riots in 1974 in Boston, a black man, yes, I've said it, he was black, I was white, and it mattered when he forced his way into my apartment in the middle of the night. In the middle of that assault, my phone rang. That man hung me by my hair. He forced the phone against my head. My father was on the line. My dad told me he loved the chicken I cooked the night before and the salad. He told me he loved me. The rapist mouthed, "Talk or I'll kill you." I didn't say, "Daddy, I'm getting raped." There was no way he could stop it. He was all the way in Marblehead, Massachusetts, and I didn't want my father that I loved to feel bad for the rest of his life because he was helpless on the other end of the phone. When that black man slammed his way inside my body, he roared racist epithets I'd never even heard of. "Fucking white cunt whore." He climaxed with, "Another white girl bites the dust." Did he choose it? Yes. Was it wrong? Yes. Did he come out of his mother's womb ready to rape white girls working against segregation? No. So here's what we've got. The necessity of empathic connection. When I was a little girl, I asked my mother why people hurt each other. My mother told me that it's just the way people are. That's fucked. We now know and can prove scientifically that human beings are wired for empathic connection. We are a gregarious species. We are a species that imitates. Unimpeded by social anxiety, we choke up when we see another crying. We crave connectedness. It's what comes naturally to us. When we are empathically connected, we are truly unable to harm each other. The only way for one human being to rape another, to sexually assault another, is to break the empathic connections we all come with. Violence begets violence begets violence. But feeling, listening, and telling the truth beget connection. An enormously famous therapist once told me that the events wrecked my life. I was left with an important question. If what he said is true, then what comes after a wrecked life? Any of us here who have lived through sexual assault are living the after right this minute. Yeah, and it's pretty great. Let's assume a scenario where both the perpetrator and their victim live through the assault. What happens after, for both of them and for their loved ones, is eerily similar. Living through a sexual assault inexorably changes the people who have lived through it forever. The trauma event, no matter how many people try to pretend, shame, or blame it away, will never have not happened once it has. You see, one of the harder things about being a person is deeply knowing that everything matters. Every single thing. Once you rape, once you've been raped, once someone you know or love has been raped, you are different. It doesn't ever go away. What we are able to do is feel the enormity of the initial story, feel the enormity of the adaptations we create in response to the initial event, and out of these feelings, shift our relationship to the traumas and to ourselves. We can heal. And this includes healing for our traumatized world. This process is so simple that people can easily pretend that they don't understand it. A reciprocal loop of discourse and validation has to be in place. It is this exchange, this movement, that keeps the channels open so that our innate capacity for empathy can recover. The horrific details of violence do incredible harm, but it is the omissions by denial that propagate the global rape epidemic. Our species needs to be unable to do harm. This is effortless when empathic connection is accessible. The totally natural scar tissue that grows in the heart when we realize that people can do horrible things, that the world is not as we thought and hoped, can be mitigated through our reciprocal loop. The cycles of violence repeat because we do not choose to bear witness. What can mitigate much of the damage and enable us to grow into harvesting the incredible strengths that are possible after trauma has primarily to do with the environment into which we are received after. Yes, I am saying that the story of the events, no matter how grotesque, if they're received into an environment where telling and listening is standard fare, will not leave the same extensively damaging psychological scars as that same grotesque story when it is met by systemic denial.